Okay, let's dive into this. The love triangle. It's a trope that people have very strong feelings about. You either love them or you absolutely hate them. But lately it feels like something's shifted. Even the biggest fans are getting kind of tired of them. So, what's going on? Why are so many modern love triangles just failing?
I mean, seriously, just think about these debates for a second. They practically defined a whole generation of pop culture. Were you Team Edward or Team Jacob, Team Peta or Team Gale? These weren't just fun little preferences, right? They were all-out wars fought in comment sections and forums across the early internet. It was a whole thing.
And look, before we get into what's going wrong with today's romances, we really need to understand why we were all so obsessed in the first place. What is it about this very specific type of story that's so ridiculously powerful?
The late 2000s and early 2010s were, without a doubt, the golden age. You had Damon and Stefan fighting over Elena in The Vampire Diaries. You had Twilight, The Hunger Games, even Bridget Jones trying to choose between Mark Darcy and Daniel Cleaver. This trope was absolutely everywhere, and social media just fanned the flames like never before.
From a psychological standpoint, it all makes perfect sense, especially in these coming-of-age stories. These triangles let us explore huge life choices from a safe distance. It's like, do you pick the safe, stable person, or do you go for the exciting, maybe even dangerous one? It's a way for us to play out our own questions about who we are and what we want.
And for a writer, it's an absolute gift. It's a perfect engine for drama. You automatically get this intense internal conflict for your main character. They're literally torn between two different futures. And then you get the external conflict between the two suitors. It's conflict on a silver platter.
But somewhere along the way, something changed. Even though we loved all those classics, the magic just seems to be gone. Most of the love triangles we're seeing on our screens today feel, well, they're just a mess. They don't really inspire those passionate debates anymore. They mostly just make people feel frustrated.
And you can see this so clearly in some of the biggest teen shows right now. I'm talking about stuff like The Summer I Turned Pretty or My Life with the Walter Boys. These shows are built almost entirely around a love triangle, but for a lot of people watching, they just don't hit the same way.
So why is that? Well, when you start to dig into it, it seems like there are three really big fundamental flaws in how these modern stories are being told. Let's break them down.
Okay, first up, this is a huge one. In the great stories, the main character kind of stumbles into this complicated, messy situation. It feels like a natural consequence of their journey. But in a lot of modern shows, the triangle is the entire plot. So when you see a character like Belly in The Summer I Turned Pretty, ping-ponging between Conrad and Jeremiah, it starts to feel less like she's genuinely confused and more like she's just doing what the plot needs her to do to keep the drama going. And honestly, it starts to feel a little forced and sometimes kind of icky.
And here's what happens when that feeling sets in. The audience just loses sympathy. When the main character's actions seem careless or like they're just there to stir the pot, especially when it's between two brothers who are grieving, you stop rooting for her. And at that point, the entire story just starts to fall apart.
All right, the second flaw is a bit of a bombshell, so get ready. Yeah, you heard that right. A lot of what we're being sold as a love triangle today just isn't one. It's like a cheap imitation. It's the shape of a love triangle, but it's missing the most important ingredients. See, a real love triangle runs on uncertainty. We, the viewers, have to believe that either choice is actually possible. Remember The Vampire Diaries? For a long, long time, you could genuinely make a case for Elena ending up with either Stefan or Damon. But in a lot of new shows, one of the love interests is obviously just a temporary roadblock. You can see the endgame from a mile away, and that just sucks all the tension right out of the story.
And that leads us straight to the third, and maybe the most important flaw of them all.
Think about it. The classic triangles worked because they weren't just about romance. They were about identity. When Katniss was choosing between Peta and Gale, she wasn't just choosing a boy. She was choosing a future. She was choosing what kind of person she wanted to be. The choice had real, meaningful stakes that were all about her own self-discovery.
So here's the bottom line. If you take away those deep, personal character stakes, the whole conflict just feels empty. We're told the character's torn, but we never really feel why. And it just collapses from being a meaningful journey into, well, messy, pointless toxicity. And who really wants to watch that?
Okay, so we spent a lot of time talking about the problem. But does that mean the trope is dead? Not necessarily. If writers are going to insist on using it, there's actually a pretty clear blueprint for how to make it work again. It really just comes down to four pretty simple rules.
1. Give your main character some self-awareness. Let them actually wrestle with their indecision. 2. Make both choices feel like real options. Make the audience believe it could go either way. 3. When a choice is made, let it be final. No more endless back and forth for 3 seasons. And 4. For the love of all that is good, please, no more brothers. It's just awkward for everyone. Please.
So, I guess that leaves us with one big question. Is the love triangle trope itself fundamentally broken? Or is it that we, as the audience, have just gotten tired of shallow drama? Maybe we're just craving stories with a little more depth and a little more emotional honesty. It's definitely something to think about the next time you're scrolling and see one pop up.